You check your bank account at the end of the month. You earned good money, the bills got paid, and nothing unusual happened. But somehow, the number staring back at you is lower than it should be. Again. You have been in this exact loop for years, earning more, spending carefully, doing everything you were told to do. But the math never works out the way it should. It's not because you are bad with money. There are 5 things quietly draining your wealth right now, and every single one of them was designed to never show up on your radar. In 1996, a researcher at Carnegie Mellon named Ofer Zellermeyer described something he called the pain of paying. It is the sharp little sting you feel when you hand over cash for something. That wince when you peel a 20 out of your wallet. That tiny hesitation before you say yes. For most of human history, that sting was your brain's built-in alarm system. It slowed you down. It made you think twice. It kept your spending in check without any budgets or spreadsheets. But here is what happened. Over the last 2 decades, the entire consumer economy was quietly rebuilt to eliminate that feeling. Credit cards dampened it. Contactless payments nearly erased it. And auto-debit subscriptions removed it completely. You do not feel anything when a charge hits your card at 2 a.m. while you sleep. The sting is gone, the hesitation is gone, and the alarm never fires. And that is exactly the point, because the 5 wealth killers we are about to walk through all exploit this one vulnerability. They get past your defenses by staying too small, too automatic, and too normal to ever trigger a second thought. The first one is hiding in something you look at every single month without noticing. It's called subscription drift. Pull up your bank statement right now. Scroll past the grocery runs and the gas fill-ups. Look at the small recurring charges, streaming services, cloud storage, fitness apps, that meditation app you downloaded in January and opened twice. The average American spends about $1,080 a year on subscriptions. But here's the part that should bother you. Roughly $205 of that goes to services they aren't even using. Forgotten charges, auto-renewed month after month, pulling money from accounts while the subscriber does nothing. A team of researchers at Stanford and Texas A&M wanted to understand how much of the subscription economy depends on this kind of inattention, so they studied what happened when people's credit cards got replaced. Think about it. When your card expires or gets stolen, every auto-renewal breaks. The subscription company emails you and asks you to re-enter your payment info. For the first time in months, you have to make an active choice. The result? Cancellation rates quadrupled. 4 times as many people walked away the moment they were forced to consciously decide. For some services, the researchers found that revenues would drop to 1/3 of their current level if subscribers had to actively opt in every single month. The business model doesn't depend on you loving the product. It depends on you forgetting it exists, and the companies know this. The FTC recorded 70 complaints per day in 2024 about predatory subscription practices. That was up 67% from just 3 years earlier. You're not lazy for missing these charges. The cancellation process was built to make quitting harder than staying. These are called dark patterns, deliberately confusing button layouts, multiple confirmation screens, last-minute discount offers designed to make you abandon the cancellation halfway through. The FTC sued Amazon over exactly this. They alleged that the Prime cancellation flow was intentionally designed to exhaust you into giving up. None of this is by accident. The harder it is to cancel, the more money they make. And that $205 a year in forgotten subscriptions? That's just the first leak. The second killer is hiding in something you probably did last week without thinking twice about it. It's called the convenience premium. You get home from a long day. The fridge is half empty. You're too tired to cook, too tired to drive anywhere. So you open a delivery app on your phone, Tap a few buttons, and a burrito bowl shows up at your door 30 minutes later. That sounds like a small, reasonable decision. But here's what the receipt doesn't make obvious. A financial research team ordered the exact same meals from 10 restaurants, once through delivery apps and once by picking them up in person. The average markup, once you add the menu inflation, the service fee, the delivery fee, and the suggested tip, was 79.5%. Your $12 burrito bowl actually costs you over $21 by the time it reaches your door. Across the major platforms, the all-in markups ranged from 69% on the low end to 92% on the high end. Americans spend roughly $1,850 a year on food delivery. For someone ordering delivery a couple of times a week, the convenience premium over just picking the food up yourself adds up to nearly $1,000 a year. Not in fancy dinners, not in splurges, just in the invisible gap between the in-store price and the delivered price. Now take that $1,000 and imagine you invested it instead. At a 7% annual return over 20 years, that becomes roughly $42,000. Not from cutting delivery entirely, just from knowing what the markup actually is and choosing when it's worth it. But you were never supposed to see that number. The pricing is split across 4 or 5 different line items. Menu price here, service fee there, delivery charge below that. No single line looks outrageous. The total just quietly lands higher than it should. Now, those first 2 killers drain your money on the way out. But the third one works differently. It drains your money while it just sits there, and it punishes you specifically for being responsible. It's called interest drag. You're 22 when the credit card offer arrives in the mail. The limit is reasonable. The monthly minimum is small. You use it for a pair of shoes, then dinner with friends, then a TV you tell yourself you've earned. 3 years later, you sit at your kitchen table with a calculator. You've been making every minimum payment on time. You've never missed one. But you run the numbers and something doesn't add up. The average American carries about $6,500 in credit card debt. The average interest rate on accounts that carry a balance is 22.3%. And here's the part the monthly statement is designed to obscure. When you make the minimum payment on a $5,000 balance at rates like these, almost the entire payment goes to interest, not principal. The balance barely moves. At minimum payments, that $5,000 takes roughly 18 years to pay off, and you end up paying thousands in interest on top of the original debt. You sit there staring at the screen. You've paid faithfully for years. You've followed every rule, and you still owe more than feels possible. Every night while you sleep, your bank adds another line to your balance. The interest compounds on what you owe, including on previously charged interest. By morning, the number is slightly larger than it was the night before. You never see it happen. You just feel it in the gap between what you earn and what you keep. Americans collectively pay roughly $120 billion a year in credit card interest and fees. That works out to approximately $1,000 per household. And that estimate is from a few years back, before rates climbed to where they are now, and before total credit card debt hit $1.27 trillion. The minimum payment isn't designed to help you pay off your debt. It's designed to feel affordable while keeping you in the system as long as possible. So far, every killer we've talked about takes money out of your pocket, but the fourth one actually works differently. It doesn't take anything from you. It just makes sure the money you already saved never grows. This is called the savings inertia tax, and it might be the simplest one to fix. You've got a savings account that you opened years ago at the same bank where you have your checking account. Money sits in it. You feel responsible for having it there. But pull up the interest rate on that account. The national average savings APY right now is 0.39%. Meanwhile, high-yield savings accounts, the ones offered by online banks, are paying around 4%. That's more than 10 times higher. Here's what that gap looks like in real money. Someone with $10,000 in a traditional savings account earning 0.01% will make roughly $20 in interest over 20 years. The same $10,000 in a high-yield account at 4% earns over $10,600 in the same period. Same money, same person, same risk. The only difference is where the account is held. A survey found that 45% of savers said they stayed with their current bank because they preferred having access to a local branch. That's not a financial calculation. That's a psychological default. Behavioral economists call this status quo bias. It's the tendency to stick with whatever you already have, even when switching would clearly benefit you, because any change from the current state feels like a loss. Your brain treats the familiar as safe, even when the familiar is quietly costing you hundreds of dollars every year. Switching to a high-yield account takes about 30 minutes, one afternoon of effort in exchange for thousands of dollars over a decade. But the status quo bias keeps that afternoon from ever happening. Now, everything we've covered so far, the subscriptions, the delivery markups, the interest, the savings gap, those are all things happening to you. But the fifth killer is the one you actually do to yourself. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's the hardest to see because it feels like progress. You get a real raise, the kind you've been working toward for 2 years. You check your new salary and feel a wave of relief. Finally, some breathing room. Within 3 months, you've upgraded your apartment. A nicer place, a better neighborhood, an extra $400 a month. You lease a newer car. You start eating out more often because you can. Each decision feels earned. Each one feels small. A year later, you sit down and realize your savings rate hasn't budged. You're making more money than ever, but you're keeping the same amount. The breathing room vanished. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, sometimes called the hedonic treadmill. It's the documented tendency for humans to return to a baseline level of happiness after any positive change. The excitement of the nicer apartment fades in about 3 months. The new car becomes just your car. The restaurant meals become routine, and each upgrade quietly becomes the new floor, not the ceiling. The danger isn't any single upgrade. It's 15 years of small, earned upgrades that consume every raise, every bonus, every windfall. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Data shows that average household spending hit over $77,000 in 2023. That's up nearly $16,000 from just 3 years earlier. Incomes rose, but so did spending, almost perfectly in lockstep. The treadmill doesn't stop unless you deliberately step off it. Now, any one of these killers on its own looks manageable. A forgotten subscription here, a delivery markup there, some interest, a low savings rate, a slightly bigger apartment. None of them feel like a crisis. But here's where this gets uncomfortable. Let's add them up. You're sitting at your desk with a notepad. You write down 5 numbers, roughly $205 a year in forgotten subscriptions, nearly $1,000 in delivery convenience premiums, about $1,000 in credit card interest and fees, a few hundred in lost savings account earnings, and an unknowable but significant chunk of every raise absorbed by lifestyle creep before it ever reached your savings. When you add just the measurable costs together, the total lands somewhere around $2,600 to $3,000 a year. That's not an estimate from one study. It's what happens when you stack the individual numbers from each killer side by side on one page. Now, pick up a calculator. Plug in $2,800 a year, invested at 7% annual return for 25 years. The number on the screen is approximately $177,000. You stare at it. That's nearly 3 times the median down payment on a home in this country, not from bad decisions, not from reckless spending, from charges so small and so automatic that they never once triggered a moment that felt like a mistake. It's like a slow gas leak in your house. You don't smell it because each day the amount is below the detection threshold. No single day is dangerous, but over months and years, you've lost hundreds of dollars in gas, and the real problem was never any single day. It was that the leak never triggered the alarm. Now, here's what this video isn't saying. It's not saying convenience is worthless. If you order delivery knowing it costs 80% more and you've decided your time is worth it that evening, that's a valid choice. If a subscription genuinely makes your life better, keep it. The problem isn't that these costs exist. The problem is that they were architecturally hidden so you could never make an informed decision about them. The system wasn't designed to make you broke. It was designed so these costs would never register as danger, and that's a different problem entirely, because the moment you can see them, you can choose. You're not failing, you just couldn't see the leaks. Now you can. If this made something click for you, subscribe.